I'm going to presume that you listening to this, and when I say you, it's very likely in the singular. If more than 3 people listen to this, that'll be kind of remarkable. So I'm going to presume that you listening, few people listening to this, care about understanding life, care about knowing what is actually true in life. And that does put you in a minority, a very, very, very select minority. The majority doesn't care about understanding life, doesn't care about knowing what really is true. And I think you know that. The majority cares about a different set of things. The majority cares about having something proclaimed as truth, something labeled as truth with a capital T. And the actual logic of the things that they want to believe to be true doesn't have to hold up at all. There doesn't have to be any real basis for believing logically or rationally that whatever it is true. There just has to be some kind of a motivation, a social motivation to say, we have decided this is the truth. Or it has been decided for you by the people in authority that this is what you must believe. That's the attitude of the majority, is the attitude of dogs that have been conditioned. Attack dogs, basically, guard dogs. You're given verbal cues, and when you or visual or verbal and visual cues, and when it happens, it could be snapping a finger. When the finger is snapped and you've been conditioned, now it's time to growl and bare your teeth and snarl, because that's how you've been trained, because you are an attack dog. And that's the mentality of the majority. Just learn what the cues are, and they send us to school from a very early age to condition us. That's what schools are about, conditioning us, training us to learn the cues and the approved responses to those cues. That's why we pledge allegiance in school, because basically you're being trained the responses, reactions you're supposed to give to the waving of this particular piece of cloth. That's all it is. It's just a visual cue. It's no different from a matador waving a piece of cloth at the bull to get the conditioned response that the bull is supposed to charge at the piece of cloth, traditionally red. And the piece of cloth that we are trained in the United States to respond to is red and also blue and also white. But it's still very much the same thing. It's a piece of cloth that's held up in front of you, and you're supposed to snort and stamp your feet and charge when these cues are given. That's the majority mentality. But there are people who do care to find out, to seek in life what actually, really, on its own merits, is actually true. And that's a very different thing from being conditioned. to respond in a conditioned way to verbal and visual cues and being told this is truth, and anybody that speaks against this officially proclaimed truth is a traitor and a heretic and a blasphemer. And an evildoer. So that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to the minority. You, the small, select minority, who are listening because you actually care about understanding what is real and distinguishing what is real from what is simply illusion.